Hey guys, welcome back to the series of videos we've been doing about scenarios and the type of scenarios we're going to encounter on Interbellum, the upcoming private server for Warhammer Online. Today we're going to look at a scenario that I don't think Mythic actually released this before. We haven't seen this in Flame of War. We haven't seen such a scenario on Return of Reckoning yet. And this is a little bit complex, so you will find the write-up on the website fixitv.live on the Interbellum pre-launch section if you want to read about it, and there's a photo of the scenario and the objectives. However, it's a very complicated scenario as far as I can tell, and from my understanding anyways. So the devs were kind enough to make a video on their own. So I'm gonna put the video, it's about 20 minutes for you guys to watch because they explain it, they have footage of the scenario, they show you the locations, something I don't have access to. And I think it's better for us to understand the scenario if we watch how they design it and what they want us to know. Again, if you want to read about it because it's not clear, whatever, you'll find it on the website fixitv.live. And I hope you enjoy the video. I hope it's clear enough for you. If you have any questions, of course, write it down in the comments. And if you do like all the stuff we're doing about Interbellum and other videos, like, share, and subscribe. Help us grow the community. Thank you. Enjoy the video. I'll see you in the next one because we've got a couple more scenarios to cover.
How's it going today, guys? Today we're going to be talking about a scenario that I don't believe Mythic ever actually released, and a scenario type that I have never seen in Warhammer Online in any version of it. And what I'm talking about is our Twin Siege scenario, which will actually be played out in Cadron Valley Pass. So while I load in there, well, gotta wait. So I did just post the rule set into public releases, and I'm going to go over some of that and explain it as well, and then I'll show you the map that actually exists in the game. So first off, this scenario is completely unique and doesn't follow any of our universal design elements. So every other scenario follows this scenario universal design right here. Twin Siege does not. Twin Siege, it only has one scenario that goes to the scenario type, and that's Cadron Valley Pass. And it is always a 24v24 scenario. If you've looked at the other universal scenario design, you'll know that this scenario becomes available, of course, whenever Cadron Valley has been or is the active PvP zone, or has been very recently. Unlike standard scenarios, this scenario has a 20-minute timer, and this is because there's an estimate that it will take longer for good matches to last longer than 15 minutes. At the end of this time, if neither team has achieved the primary objective, the team with the highest score wins. Outside other scenarios where you would normally respawn on a 45-second respawn interval, in this particular scenario you respawn on a 1-minute interval. This scenario is actually relatively large as well, so an individual death can be very painful. It is a 24v24 scenario, so I would suggest that people resurrect their teammates and use those out-of-combat resurrect items in this scenario. This particular scenario has no dominated or comeback designs, simply because I couldn't think of any that would actually fit. However, the scenario itself, as you're playing through it, the closer you get to the enemy's primary objective, the harder it is to do so. So that already creates a system where players have different, like, the team can get points and feel like they're competing without too much of an issue. This scenario has no benefits whatsoever towards kills. Kills generate no points in this scenario. It's all about the objectives in this particular scenario. These next parts are just describing individual components that are shared between the things. So siege health can only be reduced by basic attacks, and that's so that players that have more attack speeds, like more attacks per second, like for example Witch Elves, aren't better at the objective than others. Every single melee has a 1.1 second GCD single hit basic attack. Every single range has a 2.0 second cast basic attack. So that's why it's basic attacks only remove siege health. Whenever an object reaches 0 siege health, it's destroyed, and the enemy team gains points, and the team that it owns no longer gains the benefits that would have existed for doing so. Siege defense is a % chance to resist losing siege health whenever an object is attacked by an enemy player. This is very similar to our bombing run, where if something has resistance, then sometimes when you hit it, you're not going to be actually doing anything. And that's so that we can create a system where other objects interact with other things and make it difficult. There are NPCs on this map. This is the only scenario that we have that actually has NPCs that fight will fight enemy players. They are not one-shot NPCs, but they are not worthless in a fight either. And actually, they are buffed by the other objectives, and you'll see that as I get into it. The primary objective of this scenario is to take out the Dwarven Brewery or the Altar of Mork. Since I spawned in on a Destro character. This is the Altar of Mork right here. This is in the Destro spawn area. So, for example, like Destro would spawn right here. And their primary objective is right here. It has 3 different exits. Both sides have 3 different exits out of their spawn area, which will have guards. I have done most of the game object work for this, but I haven't actually put the NPCs in yet. This scenario ends whenever either side destroys the primary objective. Now, this map is slightly out of date. It was built probably about 30 days ago before I started doing some like balancing on positioning. So this is kind of like a rough idea. And the numbers correspond with the numbers in this document here. Now, both sides have essentially the same 5 types of objects, but they have different names and different appearances. Obviously, the primary objective for Order is not going to be ahead of Mork, right? It's the brewery, which is way over here. In fact, you'll notice that at flying speed, it's still taking me a significant amount of time to get there. There's their camp with the 3 different entrances they've got, and they've got the brewery here. Notice that this is actually attackable by me. It does not use the siege health system yet, because it's just a game object that I've placed. But yeah, so Order has their primary objective is the Dwarven Brewery. It has 1,500 seat health and has guards that cover each of the 3 entrances. So, for example, there would be guards right here, and right here, and right there. Okay, this is where Order spawns. If it's destroyed, it grants 500 scenario points to Order or to Destro, and the scenario ends. Of course, 500 points. That's how you get it to match stand. The flame cannon has 500 siege health and will have a small crew of engineers and their guards. While it is active, it slowly damages the other team's primary objective by 10 every 15 seconds. This alone will not ever end the scenario. The scenario would have to last 37 minutes for this to do all the damage by itself. And of course, the scenario only lasts 20 minutes. Also, while the flame cannon is active, all Order guards across the entire map will do additional damage. If it's destroyed, it grants 100 points to the enemy. Grants 100 points to Destro. If you want to know where that is currently at, it is currently right here, across the primary bridge, or the middle lane, because this is actually split up into 3 lanes. The Anvil of Doom has 250 siege health and has has one of the largest selections of NPCs that guard it. It's guarded by Rune Lords and their guards. While it is active, it increases the siege defense of the primary objective, the Dwarven Brewery, and the flame cannon by 50%. It also increases the health of all Order guards, making them harder to kill. If it's destroyed, it grants 150 scenario points to destruction. And the location of that is right here, the Anvil of Doom. If you know anything about lore, that's one of the reasons why it's guarded by Rune Lords, is because Rune Lords are the ones that strike the anvil during combat. The next thing is supply caches. There's actually 3 of these scattered around the map. They have 150 siege health each, and they're guarded by a small guard of Dwarven Rangers. There are 3 of these, which I just said. While each one is active, they increase the siege defense of the Dwarven Brewery by 25% and increase the health of all order guards. Now, those of you that are pretty good at math will know that there's 3 supply caches, which is 75% siege defense, and 50% from the Anvil of Doom means that while those things are up, the Dwarven Brewery has a 125% chance to ignore damage. Okay, you can't hurt it. So you have to at least take out 2 supply caches or the Anvil of Doom before you can even start doing damage to the Dwarven Brewery. So you cannot just simply rush down the enemy side, kill the players that happen to be guarding it, and take down the brewery. You do have to do at least 2 of these, like 8 other secondary objectives. If you destroy each supply cache you destroy, grants 50 points to the enemy team. The scout posts have 150 siege health and will never have any guards. There are 3 of these on each side, and whenever you destroy them, you get 25 points, and you despawn 1/3 of a specific type of NPC on the enemy team. For order, when you destroy the scout posts, you destroy the Dwarven Rangers. Now notice, supply caches are only guarded by Dwarven Rangers. Now Dwarven Rangers will also be around the Anvil of Doom and the Flame Cannon and the Brewery, but all of the other NPCs are not near the supply caches, only Dwarven Rangers. So if you take out the scout posts, the supply caches are easier to kill because there's no guards. If you take out the supply caches, the health of all of the guards on the other things are lowered. These are like your first and secondary objectives. If you kill the Anvil of Doom, once again, even more, the guards are even easier to kill. And of course, you can do more damage, siege damage to the end objective and the Flame Cannon. If you kill the Flame Cannon, you reduce how much damage your primary objective is being taken, and also reduce the damage of all guards. So the concept there is if you take out all 3 scout posts, all 3 supply caches, the Anvil of Doom, and the Flame Cannon, now the Dwarven Brewery is significantly easier to attack. Now granted, there still will be players that are defending it and a handful of guards, but they won't be as buffed. That does not mean that you have to do all of those things. You can do just a handful of those things and still go take out the Dwarven Brewery, but it does mean that the player defenders are going to have a much easier time of dealing with you because they have a lot of help. And also that the brewery is taking less damage. There are 4 types of NPCs that Order have. They'll have Iron Breakers, which their primary objective, they basically have aura that slows people around them. Since NPCs don't trigger collision detection, they're basically there to slow you down to let other NPCs and players deal with you, and they will slow you down by a large margin. Obviously, Iron Breakers are going to be in the way, so they're going to be like right here in the doorway. They'll be on the bridge in the middle. They'll be on the doorways to the camp, right? Then you also have engineers, which will only be around the Flame Cannon, obviously because they're manning the Flame Cannon, right? And they will apply dots to enemy players that are nearby and increase the amount of damage they take. So the Rune Lords will be around the Anvil of Doom. They increase the damage and healing that nearby allied players do. They won't do this to the NPCs, and they just do some ranged elemental damage to you. Rangers are the primary actual DPS of NPCs because they can be disabled by destroying scout posts, right? But they deal direct range physical damage. Now, destruction has literally the same 5 types of objects. They do the exact same thing. The only difference is they look different and that they have a different name. So for destruction, the Dwarven Brewery is the Altar of Mork. Their Flame Cannon is a Laba, aka a catapult. Their Anvil of Doom is an effigy of Gork, which when I show you that, it's a pile of crap. Man, greenskins. Supply caches are scrap piles, because of course orcs like their scrap. And the scout posts are scout posts, because the scout post is a scout post is a scout post. Their particular NPCs, they'll use Goblin Spearmen, which will look very similar to Goblin Squig Riders without the squig, at least for player-oriented stuff. You've got Orc Shamans, which apply dots to enemy players, are basically the same as an engineer, because they're the ones that are manning the lobber. You've got Goblin Shamans that buff nearby allied players, and of course you have the Air Boys that deal direct piercing damage to enemy players. Air Boys are the ones that are despawned by killing enemy scout posts. So this entire map is basically split into 3 lanes. Here's the 2 camps. You've got one lane that goes up here through the field. The river basin's relatively flat. You have another lane that basically goes through this bridge. There is a upper and lower component to the bridge. So, for example, there is the bridge itself. And then there are these 2 pathways that go down into the riverbed, which is the bottom part of the middle lane. Also, these are where the Order and Destro scout posts are for this particular flag. Lane number 3 is down here. Oh, wrong button. Is down here because the places go down the mountain right there and up the mountain right here. And this is lane number 3. As you push forward, these lanes are still maintained. For example, the supply cache for Order is right here, and the scrap pile for Destro on lane 3 is about like right there. Oh, I can hide it from here. Lane 2 does the same. For example, through here, there's the supply cache for Order, and the scrap pile for Destro is like right here. Yeah, right there. Flame Cannon and the Lava are directly across from each other. And the Anvil of Doom is right there, and the effigy of Mork is over here, aka the pile of crap. That's the effigy of Gork, right? Mork? They're the same thing, right? Lane 3, there's the scrap pile, there's the scout post, there's the Order scout post, and there's the supply cache. So essentially, while you're fighting in this particular scenario, there are 3 main lanes. They do have some separate things behind you. I did just mount up on this cow to show you about how long it's going to take you to go across some of these things. But for example, you are in lane 3, but you can swap to lane 2 by either jumping off this thing right here, or you can go around this way, right? But like I said earlier, when the objectives are 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, scout posts make it. If you kill the scout posts, it's easier to kill the supply caches. If you kill the supply caches, it's easier to kill both the Anvil of Doom and the Flame Cannon. And also the Dwarven Brewery. If you kill the Anvil of Doom, it makes it easier to kill the Dwarven Brewery and the Flame Cannon or anything with NPCs around it. The Flame Cannon is more like an offensively help thing. So if you destroy the Flame Cannon or the Lobber on the enemy team, you're basically preventing the damage that you're taking, because you're reducing the damage guards do, and also the amount of damage that your actual primary objective. Overall, we expect this to be very hectic. You also can't take your entire warband, because it's 24 players, of course. You can't just, run on one side and try to do that, because if the other side actually does split it up into the objective, you can win the match easier, right? And this is a pretty large map. I think it takes, when I was doing some running on mounts, it takes 21 seconds to get from the spawn area to one of the scout posts. So it can take a second to get around the map, which is kind of the point. It is more like a siege, right? But yeah, overall, that is our idea for Cadron Valley Pass. Like I said, it is a scenario that never existed on Warhammer Online Age of Reckoning. Originally, they were using gyrocopter piles. It was going to be like a 5-flag kind of domination thing with this huge map. We decided to build something entirely new. I would expect this to morph over time and the positions of things to move a little bit as we find more balanced ways to do it. because obviously this isn't a symmetrical map. This is just a showcase of a little bit of the work that's happened between now and then. Not a whole lot. Essentially, I did this a little bit ago when I was helping design it. But we hope that players will actually enjoy it once we get to testing this, which will probably be in phase 4 testing, because it does require 48 testers logged in at the same time in order to test the functionality of all this stuff, right? But yeah, this is Cadron Valley Pass and the Twin Siege scenario type for Interbellum.